Welcome. Today, we're here to talk about a completely new kind of payment system, one that lets any two people or businesses transact directly and securely without needing a bank or any financial middleman. Now, this isn't just a small upgrade. It's a total shift in thinking, moving away from a system that runs on institutional trust to one that runs on verifiable cryptographic proof. So let's just start with a really big question, something that impacts any business with an online presence. What if I told you that chargebacks, payment reversal fraud, and all the headaches and costs that come with them could just disappear, not be reduced, but be eliminated by the very design of the system? Well, that's the promise we're going to explore. To really get why this new system is so powerful, we have to first be honest about the problems with the one we use every day. You see, every single online transaction we make has a kind of hidden tax built into it, the cost of trust. We pay banks and credit card companies to be the go-between, and that trust-based model has some serious weaknesses and costs that eat directly into the bottom line. And this slide really lays out the strategic choice in front of us. On the left, you've got the legacy system we all know. It's built on mediation, which means high costs, and it allows for reversible payments, which makes fraud a constant line item. But on the right, you have this new proof-based model. It's lean, it's direct peer-to-peer, payments are irreversible, and the whole security architecture is designed to make fraud practically impossible from the get-go. This line from the source document hits on a really critical point. The cost of having that middleman doesn't just add a fee, it actually puts a hard limit on innovation. It makes entire business models, especially anything involving a high volume of small payments, microtransactions, basically non-starters. They're just not profitable. So, what's the alternative then? Well, it's a huge shift in how we think about security. We're moving away from relying on institutions, which, let's face it, can be broken, and we're moving toward relying on pure mathematics, cryptographic proof that anyone can verify for themselves. That is the fundamental paradigm shift. In this new system, every transaction gets validated by what you can think of as an unbreakable digital seal. It's a public, computational proof that locks in the exact time and order of every single payment. This creates a completely transparent and auditable ledger that doesn't need a central bank or a payment processor to manage it. It just works, enabling secure, direct commerce. So how does a payment actually move through this system? It's a simple four-step flow. First, the sender digitally signs and authorizes the payment. Second, that transaction is broadcast out to a decentralized network of computers. Third, those computers or nodes bundle up a bunch of recent transactions into a secure package called a block. And finally, that block gets permanently sealed and attached to the public ledger, which is just an unbreakable chain of all the blocks that came before it. Now, the big question, right? If there's no bank, no visa, no central authority, what stops people from cheating? How do you prevent someone from spending the same money twice? The answer is really clever. It's a mix of some heavy-duty computation and some very powerful economic incentives. The security of this entire network relies on something called proof of work. Instead of a bank vault, just imagine a continuous global lottery to solve a really, really hard math problem. The winner of that lottery gets to add the next block of transactions to the public ledger. And because it takes so much raw computing power to win, it becomes almost impossible for anyone to go back and change the history. A really great way to think about this is like digital gold mining. You have all these participants around the world, we can call them miners, and they're all using their computers to try and solve that difficult puzzle. The first one to find the solution gets to add the next block to the chain, and for their effort, they are rewarded with brand new currency. That reward is the incentive that keeps the whole network secure. And this is where the game theory behind this system is just brilliant. Let's say you're a bad actor with a ton of computing power. You have two choices. Option A, you can use all that power to try to attack the system and reverse a payment, which is incredibly difficult and expensive. Or option B, you can use that exact same power to play by the rules, help secure the network, and earn guaranteed rewards. The system is designed so that being honest is always, by far, the more profitable option. So how does this scattered global network all agree on one single version of the truth? It comes down to one simple, powerful rule. The longest chain wins. You see, nodes are constantly voting by dedicating their computing power to extending the chain of transactions they see as legitimate. And since the vast majority of participants are honest, the true correct chain will always grow faster and longer than any fake one. Okay, so that's the tech. It's fascinating, but let's bring this back to the boardroom. What does this actually mean for your business, for your bottom line, your risk exposure, and just your day-to-day operations? Well, first up, let's talk about data management. In standard systems, you have to store every single transaction forever, and that gets incredibly bulky and expensive over time. This system uses a really clever structure called a Merkle tree. It essentially lets you archive old, settled transactions to save a massive amount of disk space, all without breaking the integrity of the chain. This is absolutely key for making the system scalable in the long run. For any merchant, the value proposition here is just crystal clear. First, you cut out the middleman, so transaction fees drop dramatically. Second, payments are irreversible, which means chargeback fraud is gone, period. This suddenly makes microtransactions a viable business model. Plus, since you're using anonymous public keys, you can improve customer privacy and reduce the liability that comes with storing sensitive personal data. Now let's talk about risk. Once your transaction is in a block, its security just keeps getting stronger and stronger over time. To undo that one transaction, an attacker would have to redo all the computational work for that block, plus the work for every single block that's been added after it. And they'd have to do all of that faster than the entire rest of the global network combined. The sheer cost and difficulty just grows exponentially every minute. And we can actually put hard numbers on this security. This table shows you how many confirmations, that is, new blocks added after your transaction, are needed to make the chance of a successful attack less than 1%. Just look at the math. Even if an attacker somehow controlled a massive 30% of the entire network's computing power, after just 24 confirmations, your transaction is statistically bulletproof. So, the takeaway here is really simple. After just a few confirmations, which usually takes under an hour, that transaction is, for all practical purposes, irreversible. The odds of an attacker ever catching up just become vanishingly small. Okay, so given these pretty compelling benefits for cost and security, what are the actual steps a business should take if it's looking to leverage this kind of proof-based architecture? Here's a quick, high-level playbook. First, you need to identify where this fits in your operations. Are you looking to optimize high-volume payments, or maybe launch a totally new business based on microtransactions? Second, decide on your security approach. Do you run a full network node for total control, or do you use a lightweight client for more agile applications? Third, you'll want to look at things like escrow services to protect buyers when transactions can't be reversed. And finally, you launch a pilot program to get hard numbers on the ROI and the real-world cost savings. At the end of the day, this technology represents a truly fundamental shift. It really forces us to think about where we place our trust in the world of digital commerce. And it leaves us with a critical question for the future. Is your business architected to keep paying the high costs of trust, or is it ready to be architected for the certainty of proof?